nations, our citizens will be able to proudly express the name of their state, Turkey. The state institutions will no longer use the word Turkey in international correspondence. They will use the name Turkey completely. We took this decision at our cabinet meeting today. As a matter of fact, at the United Nations, this correspondence has now entered the agenda completely, he said. In his speech, Erdogan also touched on the issue of climate change, stating that as wildfires, floods, and tornadoes increase with the climate change, Turkey has shifted to a vision that would encompass the future, and that Turkey is one of the rare countries in the world which increased the size of its forests, reminding that they placed the projects to combat climate change at the center of their 2053 vision. President Erdogan said they convened the Climate Council determined the work to be done by all sectors and started the preparations for a climate law. Turkish president also said that they have further increased their investments in renewable energy sources from solar to wind. Turkey reiterated its grievances with Italy over the activities of the separatist terrorist organization PKK. According to information obtained from diplomatic sources, the ambassador of Italy in Ankara was invited to Turkey's Ministry of Foreign Affairs to be explained Turkey's dissatisfaction with the separatist terrorist organization PKK demonstrations, in which the symbol of the separatist terrorist organization PKK and the photographs of the terrorist leader were publicly exhibited in Rome on June 4, 2022. Despite the previous attempts of the Turkish embassy in Rome for the banning of the demonstrations, Italian Ambassador Giorgio Marapodi was invited to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs yesterday, and Turkey's views and demands were conveyed to him. In the meeting at the Turkish Foreign Ministry, Marapodi was reminded about the fact that PKK dark propaganda is disseminated in public space with the cause of the non-governmental organization, and that the terrorist leader was given honorary citizenship by some municipalities. It was stated that Marapodi that Turkey is highly disappointed about the developments, and the Italian ambassador was reminded of the responsibility of the Italian government in the fight against terrorism. PKK is listed as a terrorist organization by the European Union, of which Italy is a member. Russian Foreign Ministry has imposed sanctions on 61 American nationals, among them U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. A statement by the ministry said the sanctions, which ban those named from entering Russia indefinitely, are in the retaliation for constantly expanding U.S. sanctions against Russian political and public figures, as well as representatives of domestic business. Russia's sanctions target a number of executives from the military-industrial complex, media platforms, rating agencies, aircraft and shipbuilding companies, as well as the U.S. State Department officials who are involved in fake reports about malicious Russian cyber attacks. Also, among those named on the list were U.S. Trade Representatives Katerina Tai, White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield, Head of the State Department Office of Sanctions Coordination James O'Brien, and New York Stock Exchange Chairman Jeffrey Sprecher. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson won the confidence vote raised within the ruling Conservative Party on Monday, with 211 votes in favor and 148 votes against. The ballot was triggered after 54 members of the parliament wrote letters of no confidence in Johnson's mandate. The vote, which was held between 20 and 22 hours Turkish time, ended in Johnson's victory, as the majority of the MPs said they had confidence in his leadership. With the vote, Johnson will now be immune from the Conservative leadership challenge for 12 months. Discontent among Tories MPs has grown since a highly critical report in the lockdown parties in and near Downing Street during the COVID-19 pandemic was published last month. The report laid bare the extent of COVID rule breaking in Number 10, including at a birthday party. Mr. Johnson was fined by the police for attending in June 2020. Johnson, who was fined for attending one of these parties, was accused of lying to the parliament by the opposition and by some MPs in his own party. 7 out of 10 Muslims in the UK encounter Islamophobic practices in the workplace, according to a poll conducted by the website called Hyphen that focuses on matters related to Muslims in the UK and Europe. In a nationwide survey in which 1,503 UK Muslims, including 700 young people aged between 18 and 24, answered questions about their socio-economic standing and future aspirations, 7 out of 10, 69%, said they had encountered Islamophobia in a variety of work situations, including engaging with customers, clients, or external people, 44%, at work social events, 42%, and the promotion stage, 40%. India conducted a routine user training launch test of its nuclear-capable Agni-4 missile on Monday, reaffirming the credible minimum deterrence capability. Agni and Prithvi are the country's 2 main nuclear missiles. A successful training launch of an intermediate-range ballistic missile, Agni-4, was carried out at approximately 1930 hours on June 6 from APJ Abdul Kalam Island, Odisha, the Defense Ministry said in a statement. The successful test was part of routine user training launch carried out under the aegis of the Strategic Forces Command. The ministry stated that the launch evaluated all operational parameters as also reliability of the system, and reaffirms India's policy of having a credible minimum deterrence capability. Israel's coalition government failed on Monday to pass a bill renewing the legal status of Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank. The Israeli parliament voted on the bill, which extends Israeli laws implementation for Jewish settlements in the West Bank. The vote was defeated by a 58 to 52 margin in the 120-seat Knesset. The bill was considered as a test for the 8-party coalition government in Israel, which lost its parliamentary majority with the deputies that had recently withdrawn their support. Deputies of the coalition partner, Ra'am Party, which is composed of Palestinians with Israeli citizenship, voted against the bill. Hence, main opposition right-wing Likud, led Benjamin Netanyahu, also voted against the bill despite supporting the measures ideologically to prove the coalition importance and to bring about its rapid downfall. Justice Minister Gideon Saar warned last month that the governing coalition may not survive unless it passes the legislation. A heavy blow to the coalition and the beginning of the end for the coalition were among the headlines that were used by local media after the vote. The coalition government was established in June 2021 with the confidence of 61 deputies consisting of the 8 parties. TRT Documentary Awards distributed. The 13th edition of the TRT International Documentary Awards, organized by Turkish Radio Television Corporation, was held at TRT's Tepebaşı Studios in Istanbul. The event featured the screening of national and international documentary films and the award ceremony with the participation of several film experts. Deputy Culture and Tourism Minister Ahmet Misbah Demircan, TRT Director General Mehmet Zahid Sobacı, TRT executive press members and several guests from the world of cinema were in the attendance at the events. TRT Director General Sobacı in his keynote speech said documentary films that keep people's heart and the mind high-spirited are one of immense value in the terms of making sense of the concept of cultural diversity and goings on around the world. He said today, documentary films are the only content where we can observe global injustice in total clarity. As our country fights for justice on a global level, we as TRT expose all that is unjust, that the world has faced in the past, is facing today. A humanitarian perspective is our priority as always. 2021 awards, which were not distributed due to COVID-19 pandemic, are to be distributed to the winners at this year's event. Sobacı said, adding that powerful documentary films from different parts of the world were submitted for the 2022 event. The fact that we received a total of 2,618 applications over the past 2 years is an indication of the interest shown to our event on a global scale. We should remember that life flows in an atmosphere of meaning and justice, not of victories. We hope to elevate this sense of meaning and justice in the world, Sobacı noted. Documentary films that won awards at the event were selected by an esteemed jury, among them Feras Fayyad, Hilal Bayradov, Ensar Altay, Andaç Hazredaroğlu, Gökhan Tiryaki, Reis Çelik, Mahmut Fazıl Coşkun, Mehmet Bahadır Er, Serdar Akar, and Zeynep Keçeciler. 79 finalists among 2,618 applicants from more than 100 countries competed in several categories, and 24 documentary films were deemed worthy of awards. The TRT Documentary Awards are given in two separate main categories, national and international. The national competition is split into categories of student films and professional films. As part of the international competition, the Best Film Award and Culture and Tourism Ministry Special Award are given, as well as Project Sport in the Development Sport category. Zofia Kovacelovka won the Best Documentary Film Award in the International Films category with her film Only the Wind. With Peter Twist won the Ministry of Culture and Tourism Special Award with a Park Life, and After the Rain by Jian Fan won the third prize at the 13th International Theatre Documentary Award. Neşe Uğur Nohutçu received the Best Documentary Film Award with her film Thirst in the professional category of the national competition. Orhan Tekioğlu won the Ministry of Culture and Tourism Special Award with his film The Unknown Story of the Fatma Kayacı, while the third prize was given to Muhammed Beyazda for his film All Is Well. Directors Beyza Yıldız, Gülperi Alkan, Ahmet Keçili, Orhan Dede, Hasan Ete, and Selin Aktaş received the awards in the National Student Films and Project Sports categories at the 2022 edition of the awards. As part of the 2021 edition of the International Theatre Documentary Awards, Radu Sionisuk, Wad El-Kateb, Edward Watts, and Ruth Lenson were deemed worthy of awards in the International Film category, while Zeki Subaşı, Sami Mermer, Hint Bakron, and Shirin Bahar Demirel received awards in the professional category of the national competition. Fatih Ertekin, Harun Köybaşı, Aliyan Erbaş, and Yağmur Kartal won awards in the National Student Films category, and Elif Yiğit Aygün, Murat Adıyaman, and Zeki Subaşı in the project scored category of the 2021 edition of the International TRT Documentary Awards. The most valuable in the football world, PSG's French striker Mbappé. The player with the highest mark value in the football world with 205.6 million euros is the 23-year-old French striker of Paris Saint-Germain, Kylian Mbappé. It happened. According to reports prepared by the International Center for Sports Studies, the players with the highest market value in the world were determined. Mbappé, the French striker, with a market value of 205.6 million euros, topped the list of the most valuable football players in the world. In line with the model created by CIAS, according to criteria such as age, time until the completion of the contract, position, performance in the club and the national team, and the performance of the club. After the extending his contract with Paris Saint-Germain, Mbappé, who is at the top of the list, is the 21-year-old Brazilian football player of the last UEFA Champions League champion, Real Madrid, Vinicius Jr., 185.3 million euros, and Manchester City, 21-year-old new Norwegian striker Erling Haaland, with 152.6 million euros followed. The 34-year-old Argentine star of PSG is on the list, including the top 100 football players, Lionel Messi, and the 37-year-old Portuguese star of Manchester United, Cristiano Ronaldo, were not included. English Premier League clubs are the clubs with the most players on the list, with 41 players in the top 100. Turkish football players were not included in the top 100 players with the highest market value in the football world. And that was the news brought to you by the Voice of Turkey.
And now the review of the Turkish press. Vatan, Erdogan, Turkey is a powerful country. The Daily Coast President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is saying that Turkey is presently a country that can set and implement its political and security priorities. Turkey is a powerful country. The most important hallmark of our country is self-confidence and determination. Having changed the internationally recognized official name of our country in the United Nations from Turkey to Turkey is one of the symbols of the new period, Erdogan said. Habertürk, Italian ambassador to Ankara, has been summoned to foreign ministry. The Daily reports that Italian ambassador to Ankara, Giorgio Marapoli, has been summoned to the foreign ministry due to a demonstration staged by the separatist terrorist organization PKK, at which PKK symbols and photos of PKK's head Öcalan were openly displayed in the capital Rome. The Italian ambassador has been conveyed Turkey's disturbance on PKK activities under the guise of non-governmental organizations, and PKK's head having been given honorary citizenship by Italian municipalities. Star Turkey's energy move. The Daily Coast Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu is saying that Turkey exerts efforts for its European friends to be less affected by the energy crisis as a reflection of Russia-Ukraine war, adding that Azerbaijan in particular takes important responsibility regarding this matter. Çavuşoğlu also said that they will hold trilateral meetings in Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan to discuss issues related to logistics and energy. Sabah, Turkey resolves the global food crisis. The Daily reports that Turkey's intense diplomatic efforts to resolve the global food crisis due to Russia-Ukraine war have produced a result. The Russian daily Izvestia wrote that Turkey and Russia have reached agreement on a scheme on Ukrainian grain exports from the port of Odessa. The daily says that Russia agreed on a temporary scheme with Turkey to allow ships carrying grain supplies to leave the port of Odessa in Ukraine. Hürriyet, German Foreign Minister Baerbock, Turkey is our indispensable partner. The Daily Kos German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock is saying in a statement she made ahead of her visit to Pakistan, Greece and Turkey that Turkey is an indispensable partner for Germany, and the hearts of millions of people in Germany beat for Germany and Turkey. And that was the review of the Turkish press, brought to you by the Voice of Turkey's English language transmission, broadcasting from Ankara.
A world of news in 41 languages on trtvotword.com.
Weekly commentary.
Hello dear listeners, this week's edition of our program, Weekly Commentary, is penned by Mr. Kirill Semenov, who is an expert with the Russian International Affairs Council and a columnist for All Monitor. Mr. Semenov begins his commentary with this paragraph. Moscow-Tehran relations are shaped and constrained by ideological and geopolitical developments in the Middle East and beyond. And he continues, many in the West have long considered the Islamic Republic of Iran to be Russia's ally. The reality, however, is more complex. Ties between Russia and Iran will be better characterized as a marriage of convenience, if not even a competitive partnership. They lack strategic depth, and the supposed shared ideological foundations that underpin their relations are situational. Today, the politico-military sphere of cooperation between Moscow and Tehran is limited to the Syrian dossier, and mutual trade doesn't exceed $4 billion compared to $25 billion of trade between Russia and Turkey. Of course, Moscow and Tehran relations are experiencing a certain renaissance, but their relations have been marked by ups and downs over the decades. Until the reign of the Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, there had been numerous Russian-Persian wars and Soviet interventions in Iran, which cast a shadow on the modern relations between the two countries. Even though the Shah was considered a close ally of the United States, he had close contact with the Soviet Russia. In the 1960s and 70s, the Soviet Union built factories and gas pipelines in Iran and equipped the Iranian military with modern weapons, making this period the best in Russian-Iranian relations. Soviet-Iranian cooperation came to an abrupt end with the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran. Ayatollah Khomeini, who came to power afterwards, called the Soviet Russia a small Saddam. The big Satan was the US, and began to support the Mujahideen who were fighting against it. It was not until 1989 that Soviet-Iranian relations began to normalize and continued to improve in the absence of Russia. However, the essence of this cooperation was purely transactional. Iran wanted the latest Soviet-Russian arms, and Soviet Russia and then Russia sought to get billions of dollars from sales. More recently, many in Iran perceived Russia as a hostile state during the latter's use of Hamadan Air Base in Iran to strike Daesh positions in 2016. Russia's publicizing disinformation caused a stir among Iranians who felt Russia's use of the base equaled Soviet intervention between 1011 and 1045. As a result, Tehran cancelled the deal for the use of the facility for Russian military aviation. Iran would likely have remained Russia's minor partner in the Middle East, if not for the Arab uprising and the Syrian revolution, which led to a gradual political military rapprochement between the two. The ties between Tehran and Damascus were much deeper than those between Moscow and Damascus. Syria was an important element of the axis of resistance, which has an ideological and even a religious and spiritual component, as it is supposed to lay the international and regional ground to ensure the return of the 11th Shia Imam from hiding. Naturally, Russia did not share such attitudes, and its cooperation with Iran and the Assad regime in Syria was purely pragmatic. Even though they both supported the Assad regime, tensions started as soon as Moscow became involved in Syria. The countries had contrasting visions. Moscow was interested in normalizing relations between Syria and its neighbors, using the country as a springboard to enter the big game in the Middle East, while Iran tried to turn the country into its military springboard for attacks on its neighbors. At first, these differences appeared more technical, mainly concerning, for instance, the question of how agreements with the Syrian opposition on the cessation of hostilities were to be implemented. At the time, Russia sought a relatively more moderate approach compared to Iran and the Syrian regime. For instance, it brought in Sunni Muslim and Chechen military police into Aleppo after the city had been taken over by the regime, in part to prevent massacres of Sunni residents by pro-Iranian Shia militias. In other areas like Wadi Barada, there were incidents between Russian military police and pro-Iranian militias. Tehran's dominance in Syria's economy also began to displease Moscow, since too few business spheres were left for Russian oligarchs. Even though it was somewhat more profitable for the Assad regime to enter into contracts with Russian companies, Iran retained its influence both through official channels as the regime's main sponsor, trading partner and supplier of oil products, and unofficial channels and pro-Iran militants, reinforcing Tehran's policies. Finally, Russian-Iranian tensions reached a new level in 2018 after Israel and an American military contingent stationed in Syria began striking pro-Iranian formations in the country. With this came the risk of a direct military clash between Iran and the US and Israel, which Moscow wanted to avoid. In southern Syria, Iranian formations reached Israel and Jordanian borders after a 2018 military campaign. Based on agreements with Washington and Tel Aviv, Moscow prevented Tehran from establishing lodgings in Daraa and Quneitra. Russia also tried to limit Iranian expansion in northeastern Syria, near the borders with Iraq, between the cities of Al-Mayadin and Al-Kamal, where a pro-Iranian controlled enclave was effectively formed, bringing the risk of a clash with US troops on the other side of the Euphrates. However, given Israel's pro-Ukraine stance and the US military assistance to Kiev, Moscow may reconsider this approach. On the other hand, Russia is interested in maintaining friendly relations with the Arab monarchies of the Persian Gulf and Jordan, for which the strengthening of Iran's position in Syria also poses a threat. Therefore, Russia might continue its policy of restraining Iranian ambitions, but keeping an eye on the Arab states rather than on the US and Israel. However, the contradictions between Russia and Iran are gradually moving beyond the Syrian dossier and may spread to the post-Soviet space, particularly in Central Asia and the South Caucasus. Iran has become more active in its Caucasus policy after the Armenian-Azerbaijan war, when Armenian leadership considered Russian assistance in its war with Azerbaijan insufficient. Instead of increasing its military support to Yerevan, Russia concluded an alliance agreement with Azerbaijan. Iran is now trying to pressure Azerbaijan by conducting military maneuvers under the pretext of alleged military ties between Baku and Tel Aviv, and offering itself as a more reliable partner for Yerevan than Moscow. In Tajikistan, Iran is trying to compete with Moscow on security issues. Moscow is trying to develop constructive dialogue with the Taliban despite Dushanbe's hesitancy regarding the new government in Kabul. Meanwhile, Tehran has already offered to Dushanbe new forms of interaction in the military sphere, including opening a new factory to produce Iranian-made drones. Against the backdrop of the Russian military operation in Ukraine, where Moscow is rapidly using its resources, Russia's Central Asian and Caucasian allies may be feeling increasingly insecure. Therefore, Iran has an opportunity to fill this security vacuum. The viewpoints expressed here by the authors do not necessarily reflect the opinions, viewpoints, and editorial policies of TRT World. We welcome all pitches and submissions to TRT World Opinion. Please send them via email to opinion.editorial@trtworld.com. This week's commentary was penned by Mr. Kirill Semenov, who is an expert with the Russian International Affairs Council and a columnist for our Monitor. Until next week, goodbye.
Weekly Commentary.
All around the world, every hour of the day, TRT Voice of Turkey is with you.
Turkish cuisine.
Hello and welcome to the program Turkish Cuisine, presented by TRT's Voice of Turkey. In this program, we provide information regarding the Turkish food culture and share recipes of various Turkish dishes with you. Today, we are going to share the recipe of the dish leaf wrapping with olive oil, or zeytinyağlı yaprak sarma.
This dish is prepared by spicing rice and onions and wrapping it in pickled grape leaves. It can be found almost everywhere in the Middle Eastern and Eastern European countries. Although there are minor differences according to the taste of every nation and have different names, fundamentally the dish is the same. The dish, leaf wrapping with olive oil, is generally consumed in Turkey as an appetizer or a complimentary dish. You may find it with tea or even on a breakfast table. This dish is extremely suitable for vegans and vegetarians because no animal ingredient is used in this preparation. Let's look at the ingredients and recipe of the dish, leaf wrapping with olive oil. Here are the ingredients of the dish, leaf wrapping with olive oil. 300 grams of pickled grape leaves, 1 lemon, 4 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 cup of hot water. For the stuffing, half a cup of olive oil, 3 chopped onions, 1½ cup of rice, 1 cup of hot water, 1 tablespoon of pine nuts, 1 tablespoon of currant, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of mint, 1 teaspoon of pimento, half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Let's repeat the ingredients. 300 grams of pickled grape leaves, 1 lemon, 4 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 cup of hot water. For the stuffing, half a cup of olive oil, 3 chopped onions, 1½ cup of rice, 1 cup of hot water, 1 tablespoon of pine nuts, 1 tablespoon of currant, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of mint, 1 teaspoon of pimento, half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And now the preparation of the dish, leaf wrapping with olive oil or zeytinyağlı yaprak sarma. First of all, keep pickled grape leaves in hot water in a deep pot for about 5 minutes to remove their salt. After salt is removed off the pickled grape leaves, rinse them in cold water and filter extra water. Meanwhile, to prepare stuffing for the leaf wrapping, roast onions and pine nuts in ½ cup of olive oil. Rinse rice until starch is completely removed. After onions are roasted, add rice and continue roasting. Then add currant, mint and black pepper and mix well. Now add 1 cup of hot water and cook rice. Wait until cooked rice warms down. Then add cinnamon and pimento and leave the mixture for warming down. And now it is time for the preparation of the stuffing for the dish, leaf wrapping with olive oil. Take leaves one by one and lay them on a flat ground one over another so as their opaque and veined side is upwards. Cut leaf stalks with a sharp knife. Put a dessert spoonful of rice stuffing in the center of the leaves each. Fold the leaves towards their centers and roll them tight. Cover bottom of the saucepan with a few pickled grape leaves. Now place the leaf wrappings side by side in rows. Place lemon slices on top of the rows of the wrappings. To avoid opening of the wrappings, cover them with a flat service plate. After adding 1½ cup of hot water and 2 tablespoons of olive oil to the saucepan, cook wrappings for about 35 minutes on a light flame. Serve the dish, leaf wrapping with olive oil or zeytinyağlı yaprak sarma, warm or cold. Bon appetit! Today we have shared the recipe of the dish, leaf wrapping with olive oil. Until we meet again in another program with more Turkish delicacies, goodbye. Turkish cuisine.
Allah'tan kork, sopası yok. Güzellik bak sevap ötesi yok. Erkekler de yanar, evde nasıl yanar? Yanmak çözüm değil, bizim yapmaklar. Erkekler de yanar, evde nasıl yanar? Yanmak çözüm değil, bizim yapmaklar. Ben de geldim aşka, benimki bir başka. Ne güzeller gördüm, akşam sabah. Ben de geldim aşka, benimki bir başka. Ne güzeller gördüm, akşam sabah. Oldum valla, boş gezmeler, kız vermezler. Ne yapacağız şimdi? Yapacağız şimdi. Gidip de banka soyacak değiliz ya. Erkekler de yanar, evde nasıl yanar? Yanmak çözüm değil, bizim yapmaklar. Erkekler de yanar, evde nasıl yanar? Yanmak çözüm değil, bizim yapmaklar. Ben de geldim aşka, benimki bir başka. Ne güzeller gördüm, akşamdan sabaha. Ben de geldim aşka, benimki bir başka. Ne güzeller gördüm, akşamdan sabaha. Erkekler de yanar, evde nasıl yanar? Yanmak çözüm değil, bizim yapmaklar. Erkekler de yanar, evde nasıl yanar? Yanmak çözüm değil, bizim yapmaklar. Erkekler de yanar, evde nasıl yanar? Yanmak çözüm değil. The voice of Turkey, always by your side. Turkey's geomarked products.
Meatballs of Tekirdağ. Tekirdağ meatballs, named after the industrial and port city Tekirdağ in Turkey's Thracian region, joined Turkey's geographically registered products in 2020 with the application of Tekirdağ Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Tekirdağ meatballs, which are made from the cattle meat, fed with plants specific to the region, has a history of approximately 100 years. In the preparation of the meatballs, beef that has been aged for 24 hours is minced, then mixed with stale bread made of wheat and red onion, garlic, cow's kidney fat, cumin, black pepper, and table salt. After kneading, the mixture is left to rest in the refrigerator for a day. The meatballs, which are sliced in unique and small sizes, are cooked on corrugated sheet metal grills using charcoal with constant turning until they turn the color of coffee with milk. Hot sauce, roasted peppers and tomatoes, sliced onions and parsley are used in the serving of Tekirdağ meatballs.
Turkey's geomarked products. Always by your side.
Did you know that?
Did you know that Istanbul's historic Periplus Hotel was built for hosting the passengers of the famous Orient Express? The passengers of the luxurious Orient Express, a long-distance passenger train which set off from Paris in 1888 and arrived in Istanbul after an 80-hour journey, were high-level bureaucrats, artists, and aristocrats. When the elite passengers of the train came to Istanbul, they wanted to stay in high-standard quality hotels. But there was no such hotel at that time in Istanbul. In order to fill this gap, the construction of Periplus Hotel started in 1892 and was completed in 3 years. The hotel is located in a beautiful neighborhood in the heart of Istanbul called Tepebaşı of Beyoğlu district, which is described as a little Europe with a lot of cultural and social activities in Istanbul. Periplus, one of the most magnificent buildings in Istanbul and Turkey's first hotel in European standards, was opened in 1895 with a special hall. The hotel was also the only building in Istanbul, except the Ottoman palaces, which was provided electricity, and it was the first building to have an electric lift and hot tap water. Periplus Hotel witnessed a history of 126 years while standing behind the unique Golden Horn view from Tepebaşı. The iconic building, which has lasted through the reigns of 3 Ottoman sultans, the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the 2 World Wars, and the rise of the new Turkish Republic.
Did you know that?
have been listening to the Voice of Turkey's English language transmission broadcasting from Ankara in the 49-meter band between 1830 and 1930 UTC on 5945 kHz to Europe, between 2030 and 2130 UTC in the 31-meter band on 9875 kHz to South Asia and Australia, between 2200 and 2300 UTC in the 31-meter band and on 9830 kHz to Europe, Eastern USA and Canada, and in the 25-meter band on 11660 kHz between 1630 and 1730 UTC to Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. The Voice of Turkey is also beamed between 0300 and 0400 UTC in the 41-meter band and on 7275 kHz to Europe, the USA, Eastern Canada, and Cuba, between 0300 and 0400 UTC in the 49-meter band on 6165 kHz to Iraq, Syria, Iran, and the Arabian Peninsula. You can listen to us over the Turksat 3A and 4A satellites and on the internet at www.trt.net.cr through the Voice of Turkey link. Please note that transmissions broadcast between 2200 and 2300 UTC and between 0300 and 0400 UTC have been pre-recorded. For now though, thank you for listening to the Voice of Turkey and goodbye.